Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another episode of the podcast. It's not a podcast, or ID4 Insiders. And at some point, we'll decide what to call this. I am joined, as ever, by Joe from JKEV. How you doing, Joe?
Pretty good. How are you?
Surviving. It's 102 outside. So we're recording this from the mobile studio. Let's be honest, it's the passenger seat with the seatbelt in the seatbelt trick to keep the AC on. That's where we are today. That's how we're surviving this heat. But Joe, we got a special guest today. You're going to enjoy this. So with us today, as if you can't see it on your screen already, is Branden Flasch from Branden Flasch channel. Branden, how you doing?
Not bad. How are you guys?
Well, I'm surviving, and Joe still hasn't got doors. I think that's going to be. Put a comment in this, by the way, when you think Joe's finally going to get doors. I think that's the.
In about 280 subscribers, I'll get doors.
So, Branden, we know who you are. Tell the world a little bit about yourself.
So I used to work for Tesla. I've been in the automotive industry for quite a while. Bought a 110,000 mile Tesla Model S about 3 years ago. Road tripped it all over the country. Ended up selling it with 198,000. Girlfriend also had a Tesla. We sold that at 210,000. And last year I went to every state in the lower 48 in that Tesla, put 60,000 miles on it in 2020 alone. And I've now purchased a Volkswagen ID4 Pro S with gradient, white with the gray interior, and loving it so far.
I first got to know you when you were on Kyle's Out of Spec channel a while ago, and we were speaking with using it would be the nice way to put it. But then also your own channel, and yeah, I'm going to be. You have a lot. Either you have more patience or more time on your hands, because I can't sit at a supercharger at 50 kilowatts like you can. That is a that is a skill set. There is a just not. I'm just not that patient. But yeah, I saw the video you put out a couple of days ago that the value had increased so much and you were selling it. I think you teased at the end that you were getting an ID4, and I had seen you lurking on some of the ID4 forums recently. So, it's like, it doesn't look like he's going to go with a Kia Niro. What's been your experience so far? How are you finding it?
I really like it so far. I was actually going to get a Jeep Wrangler 4xe. That was the original plan because they lease very well. However, after talking to about 30 different dealers in the entire Southeast, I just could not bring myself to spend over list, which is what a lot of dealers are doing, unless you custom ordered one and have it take 2 or 3 months. Then you could lease one for like $300 a month. And at that point, it's a great deal. So I found an ID4 sitting on a lot and picked it up the next day. ID4 was always a strong contender for me, but it's kind of just what I ended up with. And especially after Kyle talked so highly of it, I actually drove the base Pro that he had as a demo car and drove from Florida to Colorado when I was in Colorado probably 2 or 3 months ago. And I had driven one prior to that as well. I would say it's not a super exciting car in really any way, but it's a really good all-around car.
I like to refer to it as delightfully boring. It is consistent. It doesn't have many flashy things on it, but it is comfortable, spacious, all the things that cars used to be. That who knows, it might catch on. Now you've got obviously big transition from a Model S to the ID4. Let's obviously cover off the big things. Are you missing your frunk?
No, I mean, the frunk was usually just stuff that I didn't use very often anyway, like charging cables and things. So that was more of just storage. And a lot of that I'm just putting in the under trunk. I'm actually still carrying Tesla charging cables and adapters because it's unbelievable to me that Volkswagen only supplies a 10 amp, 120 volt EVSE with the car. That's just embarrassing. So I carry my whole Tesla mobile connector kit with like 6 or 7 different adapters, and then I have a Tesla J1772 adapter. So that way I can use hotel destination chargers or my mobile connector.
You're a man after my own heart. Joe and I have talked about this in the past in one of our, I think it was episode 2, about charging on the road. And I bought a brand new Tesla mobile connector, plus all the, Joe, I got to ask you this. So my car's not moving right now, but just so you know, my lane assist isn't working because it's on in the heat and at 102 degrees facing into the sun. The camera will just give up. It doesn't want to work. I'll have to drive the quarter of a mile back to my wife's setup as a grown up with like using the steering wheel and everything. This is what you'll get to know these little glitches. These little, if you leave it in direct sun, it has to cool down. It gets a bit antsy about it. It will cook the sensor. But no, I use a mobile, exactly the same setup as you. I've got all those charging cables. There is no RV park, rodeo ground, or weird ass place in Nebraska I can't plug into. It's although I did find a new one. It's called a Pennsylvania 60, and I'll put a picture in a couple of days. I actually made a cable last night. This is, if you think this looks sketchy as hell, it goes beyond that. This is a public health issue. This thing is so sketchy. But it's called a Pennsylvania 60 because they've got some weird ass electrical systems here at the fairground park we're staying at right now. I know it makes me sound like a carny. I'm aware of that. But this is a change. So let me ask you the tough questions here. We're aware of Electrify America's building programming. Does this mean you no longer want to, for the next 2.5 years, you're not going to go to Wyoming or the Dakotas? You're fine with that?
I'm fine with that. I mean, I've got family and stuff in Minnesota, so I'll probably end up in Minnesota. And even if I have to level 2 hop across North Dakota, that's doable. I have multiple friends it was the underground railroad of Tesla charging for a while before North Dakota got superchargers last year.
Right. There was someone told me about this. There was a couple of RV parks that were kind of on the unofficial map for 50 amp charge. It was a Joe. This would be a great time for you to ask a question because I have to go and disappear out of view and put my hand on the brake pedal to restart the air conditioning. You learn these little tricks. You can't just put we don't have Branden, we don't have dog mode. That's the problem. We don't have dog mode. So I have to bend down and do this. I'm sorry for the view change.
Yeah, cat mode is definitely a welcome addition at some point. So you
press the power button or nor?
What's that?
Can't you just press the power button to turn the car on, or not from the passenger seat?
No.
Oh, okay.
You can, but if you want it to stay on for more than 15 minutes, then you need to hit the brake pad, the brake pad. That is you can't. It will only if you press the start button. It will only go into the basically remote cooling mode, which is only like cool, not cool. If you want the full AC system, then you gotta put your foot on it. Yeah. Apparently we are getting a version of dog mode in a CarNet update in the future. It can't come too soon.
CarNet's
sorry, Joe.
They clearly left features out because if you buy like an Atlas, you can unlock the car with CarNet, but you can't unlock the ID4. I feel like they sandbag just so that in a few months when they give us updates, they'll be able to say, look at these features we brought you.
Yeah. There's a thought that version 3 is going to include, well, actually we know it well. Version 3, software update version 3 will include an app store. So yeah, I think the answer to how can you sell a 250-mile SUV for $40,000 is you get $50,000 out of people over the lifetime of their owning it as well through subscription services. But we can see. we wait and see. Sorry, go on. But Joe, you were asking Branden a question before I interrupted with all AC craziness.
So I'm aware that you were on the goal of attending all of these supercharger locations across the country. Does this mean you'll be starting that goal from Charger One on Electrify America?
I've got a list started of the ones I've already been to. I'm up to 10 so far that I've been to in Teslas. And then I've got my supercharger list, which is up to, let's see here, I think 500 something. Where is it? Right here. So 528 superchargers I've been to, individual locations.
That's funny. That's funny.
I'm aiming to go
almost
as many
been to more
Electrify America.
Whatever you do.
You've almost been to more superchargers than Electrify America locations exist. I think there's 600 locations for Electrify America now.
Fun.
Yeah, and whatever you do, Branden, don't put stickers on the Electrify America chargers, because that will be considered an act of vandalism, and you'll get phoned up on a recorded line to advise you that you can be suspended and or removed from the service should you continue. I'm not sure who this happened to in the past, but I know I wouldn't do it.
I have heard a similar story. We had to improvise a sunshade
not only that, but if
for
you
recording the Taycan charging session with Kyle. So we had to tape a box around the screen to cut the glare from the camera, and Electrify America was not happy about it.
You're kidding. That's okay. Electrify America, if you're listening, fix Winnemucca, then start caring about these other things, please.
Or just install brighter screens or screen covers or something so that you can see them easier in the sun.
This is, we know they're going through. Joe, can you remember what units were that they installed in West Wendover? Which ones were those? They're the new. Are they the new signets?
I think.
Are they the new ABBs? So
yeah.
These are the weird conversations we have, Branden. You're going to come to this club, okay? Now the question is, those are really good screens, but are they going to stand up to being outside in the extremes? Because where was the one in the Grand Island? Those screens have taken such right, and they have taken, and not just the screens, the rubber, the cable on the rubber cables has taken such a beating with that extreme hot and cold. And my family's from Nebraska, so they're used to the minus 20 to 105 swing. If these new ones stand up to it, fine, but they just do not. There's a reason why those red box DVD rentals, you know what I mean? It might just be a piece of fabric, but they do need to do something. It's this is one of those situations where you can blame California, because we said that chargers must have a screen and ability to take credit cards. It's
those
our
are the two
fault.
things that reliably
Even Tesla's not going to be incompetent. Tell me about it. It is ridiculous, but it is what it is. Now, the Electrify America care about these things. They don't care about getting long-standing sites like Winnemucca to be working consistently above 32 kilowatts, allegedly. I think allegedly gives you legal coverage. So, Branden, you've only had it for a handful of days. I'm guessing you put, 30,000 miles on it so far?
I wish. I think it just crossed over 200 today.
Obviously, everybody's disappointed. I mean, we look to you for spiritual guidance on this one. I mean, this is one would assume. With just 200,000 miles, what do you miss about the Model S at this point? Or what do you think you're going to miss?
Autopilot is better than travel assist. Autopilot, it's just a lot more confident in all the actions it takes versus travel assist seems to wander around a lot. And it might just be that I'm not as comfortable with it yet, but we'll see how that goes. I'm really hoping that gets a bit improved with software updates. I also wish it had hold when you come to a complete stop, because creep is just the stupidest thing I've ever seen in an electric car, or at least make it a setting. So that way, if someone's also driving a Tiguan some days, they're not confused going back and forth, but I don't want that. I want it to come to a complete stop and hold. And I also want just essentially one pedal driving. There's no reason they can't do it. It has permanent magnet motors. And then walk away door lock needs to be a thing. It has unlock on approach, but it doesn't lock when you walk away. I keep leaving it unlocked.
So for walk away lock, I thought that's a setting, but it doesn't work.
No.
As far as the one pedal driving, we've basically come to a stop, and then the creep basically starts rolling. So I agree that needs to be fixed. Hold is in Europe now, so no reason that shouldn't be here. And what was the first thing you mentioned?
Just the lack of confidence with travel assist.
Travel assist
also wandered to the left a little bit too.
I think autopilot's the best, and then I think even Ford Copilot is a little bit ahead of travel assist at this point.
Yeah, they just need to give some software updates, but I really like the capacitive wheel so that you don't have to nudge the wheel at all for the torque sensor like on a Tesla.
Yeah, big fan of that too. Makes it easy to change lanes.
Yeah, I do like how easy it is to change lanes. You just do it, and then it just resumes on its own, which autopilot doesn't. But I had AP1 on the 2015 Model S, so it would do lane changes for me just by signaling.
It is a the horses, of course, they are very different. I was when I saw Kyle earlier in the week, I also saw Sandy Monroe, and yeah, he's not a fan, and I understand he has an opinion. I think any of us that saw his video on the ID4, he did lose a little bit of credibility when he talked about having an appointment to get a charge. None of us knew what the hell he was talking about in that situation.
Don't even get me started.
That was one of those.
He was a boomer being a boomer. It's that simple. He got frustrated and didn't read what the screen was telling him.
Okay. The thing is, Branden, and I say this with love, but two things. One, this is my podcast as an adult, so moment every day. Be nice to us old people. I'm closer to being Sandy than I like. There are multiple times a day. There are multiple times a day when I can't find the glasses that I'm wearing. Just be nice to old people. You will be with us sooner than you think. If it doesn't hurt now, it will later. But when I was talking to him, and it was something he said at the time, and then something he repeated that tells me that Volkswagen actually, they've announced the new platform that will be arriving in 3 years' time, the next iteration of MEB. And yeah, his version of events was, well, they didn't want to fire anybody, so they gave the guy who didn't have a job the job of designing the MEB. I'm like, all right, well, if you understand German working councils and things like that, then yeah, it is technically possibly very true. However, they also didn't want to retool an entire factory plant overnight to do this. They wanted to produce a range of electric vehicles using tooling that they already have, knowing that this was a marathon, not a sprint. And, there's a lot of what I didn't realize in talking to the people from Volkswagen who've been looking at my car. There's actually more commonality between the VW Golf and this than I realized. A lot of the battery management system actually came straight over. Bigger battery, but the management system is exactly the same. The suspension is not new. It's a modified version of the Atlas. It's modified because obviously this is a smaller car than the Atlas, but it weighs more than the Atlas, and so why? But I think we can all benefit from knowing that VW know how to screw a car together. How many Volkswagen Golf Mark IIs do you still see driving around? I mean, these things refuse to die. So it'll be. I don't agree with him, but I do think I think as an investment, yeah, Volkswagen really do want to sell a few 100,000 of these. They're serious about it. Whether or not we'll buy a few 100,000 is a very different question. But no, you've got 200,000. You've got 200 miles under your belt. Do you have plans for a road trip? Are we going to see you crossing the country?
It kind of depends on what car we buy next for Kaylee. So we're kind of looking all around the country. Might end up road tripping to pick it up, but no immediate plans. But the general plan to road trip at some point.
So Kaylee's not allowed to travel in the car with you. Is this a Mennonite thing, or what's the deal here? I thought she's just not. I don't let extra dog. I only let dogs ride in the trunk, not in the back seat. Is this your policy with Kaylee? Is this something we should talk about?
No, we just like to travel separately sometimes. We go on road trips together, but still just living every day, we need two cars if we need to do other things separately.
Well, I can any married man would agree with you on that.
I mean, it did become annoying on the road to have two cars. That's kind of why I ended up selling mine, so that we went down to one car, so we weren't both having to drive. Kaylee doesn't like to drive once the sun is set, and I like to drive as many miles as I can get done in a day. So those were definitely clashing forces.
I can see that. That is that's weird. I've got both. See, this is what I said. Be nice to old people. I want to do as many miles as I can, but I don't want to drive in the dusk. That's an old people thing. Once it's dark, I'm fine. I'll drive all night in the dark. But in that half light, I don't like that. That's my kryptonite time. What do we? So you've no media plans, but what does regular mileage look like for you? You know, just as a regular person without doing all the EV long distance, what kind of mileage, do you expect to do in a given week?
Generally a few 100 miles, just like around town, 30 or 40 miles a day. We live kind of on the outskirts of Charlotte, so a lot of things do require driving 10 to 20 miles to get to. So it adds up a bit over the course of a week. But so far, I charged it to 100% on Monday, and it's at like 56% now.
Do you have a charging solution at home?
No.
So Electrify America?
No, I can actually charge at the office. And then we do have a 3.7 kilowatt level 2 at my apartment complex, but they charge 40 cents a kilowatt hour. And we have a garage, so I can plug in on 120 volt if I want to, but probably use whatever free charging we can use. It is a Blink unit. Yes. You know the asinine rates when you hear it.
40 cents. Is that organic or premium electric? That would be my question. Yeah.
I think that's garbage electric.
Blink,
only 3.7 kilowatt.
I don't understand. I honestly do not understand Blink. Like whenever you see, by the way, just very quickly, hi Blink. If you have lawyers, I still live in England. I do not understand their business model. The subscription thing. Okay, fine. I get it on one level. I think when I first got the i3, what's that now, 5-6 years ago, because I live in Silicon Valley, it was kind of, you needed Blink, but at some point everybody went away from them. The fact that they used to put their chargers in underground car parks where you couldn't get self-service to activate them was kind of limiting in some degree. Then they did their hotel DC fast chargers, and they would limit them to 22 kilowatts, and they would be these huge things which frequently break down in the heat. And then they seem to, I'm not sure if they work with chambers of commerce. Just where I am right now, the next sort of nearest big town is a place called Newburgh. There are 6 Blink chargers in town. Every single one of them is 40 cents a kilowatt. And yet you just have to, like, is Blink an impediment to people buying an EV?
Yes.
It's just that, right?
I have nothing positive to say about Blink. They're always on the brink, as I like to say. They're overpriced. They're unreliable. This one, if it's raining, if it's too hot, you can't even use the touchscreen. So you'd have to order one of their RFID cards to even activate it, because you otherwise have to punch in a code on the touchscreen to activate it, which is just absurd. I don't know if they just have like really good salespeople that somehow pitch, oh, you'll make so much money with these high electric rates to these businesses or whatever, but no one's going to use them when they're overpriced.
No, it is. I have to assume that's how they sell. By the way, Blink, if you want to get in touch and tell us how you sell, then we'd love to hear and share that with the world. But yeah, it does smell like you won't have to pay for the infrastructure; other people will. You know, there's a finance package that goes with the rates, and you won't have to do any recovery. It is a
It must be similar to
and like you said, the
model that charges an arm and a leg to install a charger. When in reality, we all have level 2 chargers that we bring with us. Just install NEMA 1450 plugs everywhere, and you'll make more money as a hotel if you just put outlets outside, because you'll attract us, and we'll drive miles out of the way to stay overnight to charge.
Yeah,
I'll disagree with you on that.
Reliable.
Yeah.
That I was going to say, I was going to disagree with you on that, Joe. Leaving 1450s outside doesn't work, because without maintenance, they go to hell. And just you spend any time at an RV park or a fairground where you have lots of these 1450s lying around, and yeah, they are usually in shocking. I don't think people realize how, and I'm speaking as a European, how diverse American weather can get. Winter is very different to summer almost anywhere in this country compared with anywhere else. In England, it's 364 days of rain, 2 days of summer. So you really just don't notice it. But here, the idea that it's 98 here, it's not where I am now, it's 98 here in the middle of summer. It will be negative in winter and under 2.5 feet of snow. The electrics in the open just would die. But to your point, Branden, I don't think it's possible to kill a clipper creep. I think they're like the Nokia S60 phone of electric chargers. They can get through anything. There's 10-year-old ones.
The Tesla destination
at a hotel near me. Too. We talked about this before we started. You're still like myself. You're still carrying your Tesla destination.
Yeah, I'm carrying a Tesla mobile connector kit with like 6 or 7 adapters. And then I have a Tesla J1772 adapter. So that way I can use the mobile connector, or if a hotel, business, whatever has a Tesla destination charger, I can use that and not have to tie up the J1772 if there's that. Alternatively, sometimes I've seen it that the J1772 you have to pay for, but the Tesla you don't, because there really isn't a way to charge for using them. But sometimes I'll do like a charge point unit that's whatever rate per minute or kilowatt hour, but the Tesla ones are free.
That you're describing why I bought my Tesla tap.
I have seen that. No, absolutely.
And it just gives you more options to have the
love
Tesla
it.
Mobile connector.
Yeah, I mean, those things are bulletproof. They've been making them for so long. They are so well made. I mean, that you could beat a guy to death with a mobile connector, and it would be comfortable. That rubberized outside, you're not going to leave any real bruises. You're still going to do damage. Yeah, as usual, I'm not a good person. But mine has been doing service this week. Right?
I don't understand why every other EV doesn't include something just like a Tesla mobile connector. It's unexcusable to me.
have you seen the Polestar one?
I have seen it, but I don't recall. Refresh my memory on it.
It is a work of it's beautiful, and I mean it is physically beautiful. It's a work of art. I'm trying to remember the guy whose channel it was. It's the guy who's based in Northern California near me, Tony Anthony. Anyway, he made a point of showing it, and it is beautiful. It looks like a what's that gemstone glass Swarovski? It looks like it's covered in Swarovski glass diamonds. It twists. It does take 50 amps. You unscrew the cable out the bottom and the adapters. It is a beautiful thing. I would love to drive a Polestar too. I really just want to steal the mobile charger out of it, because it's got 30, 50 amp capability, although it probably does not have the number of charging connectors that you and I have got from Tesla in the back as well.
Yeah, but, and back on the topic of level 2 charging, what I really like to see are public chargers that are powered via either NEMA 1450s or NEMA 650s. So that way, in the off chance that the units do fail, you can simply unplug the unit and then plug in a mobile connector with an adapter.
I would get behind that. My worry is if you don't hardwire these things in, people will screw with them. I
actually haven't encountered
there's a resiliency issue. You trust people more than I do. I live near San Francisco. If there's literally every single, I would worry for the wrong reasons. Like if there's a 110 socket outside a 7-Eleven, there's usually a hobo charging up his cell phone. That's it. My worry is that I'm not saying that there's going to be a 2012 Tesla charging at a 1460 outside, but just when you leave these things, I don't know. It's I don't know. I think it's keep it simple. Fill the world with good charge point connectors, or even better with Grizzlies. If you're not going to charge for it, put a Grizzly outside or a Clipper Creek. Put a 5-year-old, 6-year-old low-cost Clipper Creek unit in a winter storm in Minnesota. It will still work. I mean, those Badger of chargers.
I'm originally from Minnesota, and
Clipper Creek, you can buy that from me. Exactly. That's what I'm saying. They are the honey badger of chargers. They cannot die. I'm intrigued to see what this new brand. They've got a new one, a cheaper brand. I saw Tom reviewing them recently.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where they've taken the internal
branded because they're not made in the U.S. So they didn't want to. Right. They want to keep holding on their claim to fame of made in the U.S.
We'll see how they hold up over the long term. I think Tom's doing a freezer test on one, so we'll see. But no. So no immediate, Branden. No immediate plans for a big road trip yet, but you're planning on adding to your fleet with a smaller EV. It's fair to say. This is going to be the. Are you going to be rebranding as a DCS Nomad or something like that? Is this, this wholesale change?
Well, I originally branded the channel as EV Nomad specifically because I thought there was a solid chance I would end up with a non-Tesla EV. So rather than a Tesla Nomad, it's EV Nomad.
I will be honest with you, I had similar thoughts. I went with regular EV Dad, and your thing was an inspiration on that side. It was like, let's just keep this. I don't want to call it the non-Tesla EV channel because at some point, and Joe and I have talked about this, I will, if my company IPOs this year, I will do something ridiculous like buy a Model S Plaid because, I'm a horrible person who likes shiny things, but I'm my own worst hypocrite.
If you dig into the old Inside EV podcast, you'll see some references to J.K. Tesla asking a question That was formerly me. I had to rebrand after buying this car.
I like that. Anyways, Branden, I'm going to bring this to an end. If for no other reason than we've run out of stuff to say, then also that my phone and car are now getting so hot that they're telling me they're going to turn off the app. I think that's God's way of telling me to shut up. It happened, and we know it. Joe and I found out it's actually serious because yesterday we were recording and it actually shut off halfway through, so we had to reshoot half of our content. Let me just say, Branden, thank you so much for joining us today. We're so glad you've joined the dark empire of Volkswagen and the CCS connectors. You're welcome. May you always have good fortune at Electrify America. Make sure you save the 855 number in your phone. You will need it. And don't forget the last 4 digits of your credit card number. You are required to give those every time, even though you don't pay for service. These are the things you'll find. And I hope we can have you back on the channel at some point in the future.
Absolutely. Thank you
in the
guys for
meantime,
having
I
me.
will make sure in the show notes to put a link. No, thank you. We're going to put a link to Branden's channel in here. Branden, I'm guessing that at some point you're going to do a bit of a reel, so we'll link to that video as well. Get your let people see your vehicle and get your first thoughts on that. And other than that, Joe, thanks as ever for being here. Appreciate it.
Take care.
And we'll see you all soon. My phone is so fucking hot, I can barely hold the damn thing. I'm not joking. Like, it's